Dr. Satyadeep Chettri with us, and he's going to be talking about his book. So he's going to take a look at two of his book. One is called Sikkim from Autocracy to Half Democracy, and the other one is a fictional book called Gorkhaland Diaries. Um, I think Dr. Satyadeep Chettri is here. Yes. Hello. Good
Hi.
afternoon and evening from Hong Kong.
So
Yes.
good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Namaskar from India.
Yes. So yeah, so I think we can begin our session, right? I think we still have people coming up, but I guess we can start because it's already been 5 minutes. And so thank you so much for coming to our session. Today we're going to be talking about Gorkhaland, the unheard histories, identities, and elusive dreams of Homeland. We have Dr. Satyadeep Chetri's two wonderful books, and he's going to talk about both of them, tackling around the Gorkhaland identities. And yeah, so I guess the first thing that I want to start off with is that how did you come about coming to plan these two stories? Because I feel like both of these stories kind of have a central theme, right? Yeah, so which is like Gorkhaland identities and then also a question about identity. So one thing I wanted to ask, because that was in your book, which was why do Indian Gorkhas always have identity crisis? And I wanted you to kind of use this as to start off with how you plan with both of the stories because both of them tackle with identity crisis. And what exactly do you mean by that? Yeah.
So, first of all, thank you very much for inviting me for this
Yeah.
session where I'll be talking about both the books and then relating your unheard
Mm-hmm.
histories, identities, and these elusive dreams of people of our region.
Yeah.
Uh, Many of you who do not know where, I mean, I don't know where all you have joined from, but it's important to understand the region in which these place, uh, the Darjeeling Hills, which includes the Kalimpong Hills also, and the Duars area, and then we have Sikkim. These places are let us say, I'll use the word Nepali speaking. There's a huge population, one of the largest population in India, of the Nepali speaking people.
Mm-hmm.
And interestingly, this place is perched somewhere around at the junction of, say, the two big countries, India and China, where we have the Darjeeling Hills. To the left of it, we have Nepal. To the right of it, we have Sikkim. Um, Above Sikkim, there is Tibet, which is now it's called the Tibetan Autonomous Region, TAR, which is part of China. And then we have Bhutan on the east. So it's very interesting to see where these areas are located. Another very important thing is that the claims of these places have always brought about some amount of discussions, discourses um, regarding to to whom does this place belong. If you look at Darjeeling, it was part of Sikkim, and till 1835 when the lease deed was signed. Kalimpong was part of Bhutan, which in 1867, after the Sinchula Treaty of Sinchula, 1865, the Treaty of Sinchula, this place was leased out to the British Kingdom. If you, I'll take you back to 1835. It was not the British Kingdom, but it was that time. It was the uh, East India Company, the
Yeah.
British East India Company. And then you have Sikkim, which leased out the land of Darjeeling to the British East India Company, was, uh, the claims have been there from China of not recognizing this tiny little Himalayan state or Himalayan country once upon a time till 1975, which was an independent country, which later became a part of India in 1975. That means 2025, Sikkim is celebrating 50 years of merger with India.
Mm,
And then we have the huge tracts again of Darjeeling and the Sikkim Hills till 1816, from around 1875, 1880. We have the Gorkha kingdom who had taken over this land till the Treaty of Sugoli was signed in 1816 and this land was returned. So this place has evoked
mm,
a lot of geopolitical discussions, and that is where all my readings about this region comes down or boils down to a particular question, and that is, where do these people belong to? And why is there an othering from everyone in the country? You know, uh,
mm,
if you look at the word Nepali, so what
mm,
does a word Nepali mean? Is it a race? Is it uh, a citizen of a country called Nepal, or is it a language? You know,
mm,
and then you have the other people from this area, especially the Bhutias, and then we have the Lepchas, uh, who again have mixed identities of Lepcha claiming that they are the oldest inhabitants of Sikkim, and then we have Bhutias who a small population used to live here, and then there was a huge influence of Lhasa then, before it became uh, an independent country. So even after it became a country in 1642, there was a huge influence of Lhasa and Tibet
mm,
over Sikkim, sending their daughters getting married. I mean, the Sikkimese king had a summer capital in Chumbi Valley in Tibet. So, so it's totally
yeah.
mixed. And then you have this another population of a huge Nepali population in Bhutan who were called Lotsampas, and today we know what the fate of Lotsampas, where they are scattered all over the world after in around 1991, 92, almost 1 to 2 lakh people were made homeless overnight. And
Mm,
most of them, 99% of them, were the Nepali speaking population. So, these are questions that when you are young, there is no such questions that come up to
mm,
you. But as you grow older and as you hear people speak, as you travel around the world, these questions keep coming back to you again and again and again, especially when you
mm,
go to Delhi, and then you say that what are you, and I and we've started using the word Gorkha.
mm,
uh, or if I say Nepali, then they would the first thing they
mm,
would ask is, oh, so when did you come to India? I mean, as
mm,
if these people did not exist before India
mm,
was made in 1947. So my take on this is that we were always there, all around these Himalayan highlands. The
mm,
entire uh, this whole conglomerate of Nepali speaking population, like the Tamangs, the Limbus, the Muggers, the Chetris, the Bounds, the I mean, name the Nevars, everyone who were there was moving around, trading, moving from one highland to the other, moving from one pasture to the other, making their farmland, staying there. And it was only much later that, these borders came about, and then you start getting appropriated to a country. So this is quite hilarious
mm,
at this point of time. So that is
mm,
where all these questions and writing of this book and bringing together facts and presenting it to our readers in a more palatable format. That is, you should enjoy the book as you read it. So that was
mm.
my whole idea of writing this book. Yes, Mac.
Right, right. Yeah. Because I think it's one thing because I feel like all the information you have given us so far is really interesting in itself. But then I guess one question that I really wanted to ask was, how did you take all that information and then decided to change it into a fictional book? Like, what was the idea, or what was what was the inspiration behind it? Like, why Gorkhaland Diaries? Why didn't you decide to just do a non-fiction? Why not a historical book? Like, why do you choose a fictional book? Yeah.
So, as I said, the book has to
Mm,
be first palatable.
yeah, yeah.
And so everything started in 2017, as late as 2017, when the Darjeeling Hills, including Kalimpong, were shut down for a civil strike for 105 days. And
Mm,
the demand was a separate state of
mm,
Gorkhaland within the Indian Union. So it's not like we want a separate country. It's a separate.
mm,
So India is made of around 28 country states. So the demand has always been there, right from I mean, for the last
mm,
120 years, if not less. So 1905 was the first time when a separate administrative setup that was in British India, that was the first demand by the Hillmen's Association. But now it's part of Bengal. So the separation from Bengal has always been behind people's mindset and saying that we need our own place, we need our own administrative setup, we need to think differently for the hills. Because if you see Bengal, the rest of the Bengal, other than the small, tiny Darjeeling, Kalimpong, and the Duars, the rest are all plains. So, a
mm,
separate developmental model, recognition of identity, of language. Once in a while, there's always people or Bengal government trying to say that let's have Bengali as the state language, but they do not understand that Nepali is also, at equal footing with Bengali as per the Indian Constitution and the eighth schedule of the Constitution. So, in 2017, when the strike was going on and there was to bring about law and order in that place, there were some shootouts. Almost 13 people died, not together, but stretched over about 3 4 months. Uh, so then there were a lot of rallies that came out also in Sikkim and neighboring areas. And I happened to talk to a lot of youngsters then and ask them that, you know, uh, why are you there in this rally? And they said that, oh, we've been asking for this demand. And then said, what do you know about it? Then they started saying that, oh, yes, in 86, 87, this happened, that happened, and around 3,000 people were killed. But there was no national, nobody talked about it nationally in India. And it was just rolled, pushed below the carpet. So that is where it all started, that it's time. Many of these people who were there in
mm,
84, 85, 86 were all either, by with age they were dying, they're moving away, their memories were fading. So it was time to write down these stories, bring it together in a fictional format so that everybody reads it. And though a lot of books have been written, a lot of research has been done for PhD and all that. Around 35 books on Gorkhaland in different languages, non-fiction format has been written, but uh,
mm,
a full-length English novel was still awaited, and that is what pushed me to write this book and bring all these 30 years, right
mm,
from 1984 to almost 2017, 84, 85, 86 till 2017. So as much as possible, I try to bring down,
yeah.
capture all the main issues in this book
Mm,
and then make it a story in a story format, in a fictional
mm.
format. Like people should enjoy reading the book, at the same time know their history.
Yeah, right, right. It's really interesting because I think like just like what you said, like, a lot of them has already been written in nonfiction, but then I guess to make it a more approachable for people, whether they are in part of this or not, I think the most easiest way to go forward is through fictional books, right? So let's talk about Gorkhaland Diaries then. I feel like I want to talk about a particular scene. So um this is a particular scene about the Mariters Day, the movement in Kalimpong. So I guess like in the Gorkhaland Diaries, it was said to be a bloody shootout at that time. And I really want to ask one question is that can you set the scene for that day? I mean, I have the scene in my phone right now and I'm looking at it, but I want to ask it from your perspective. Like, um, why was it so pivotal at that particular moment, and why do you think was so important, especially page 86 to 85, where we look at our protagonist, I think the main character, and he comes back from this protest and he is full of blood and everything. And I feel like that's such an interesting scene because we're not seeing him protesting, we're seeing him after the protest. And I feel like such an interesting scene. So could you just elaborate a little bit, yeah, on that
Yeah, I
scene?
mean, that was 27th of July, which is celebrated or observed as Martyrs' Day. And the largest number of volunteers, I mean,
Mm,
they were out there just to have a rally, number one. And number two, uh, they were supposed to, put up some of their demands for Gorkhaland, of course, and many joined in. It was more of a cultural thing where even people had dressed up, they were dancing and they
mm,
were singing and they're coming out in rallies saying that we want Gorkhaland and all that. Even when the tensions were running high across the hills, but then suddenly the police and the CRPF they resorted to firing, and lots of people died that day. The
mm,
official count is 13 again, but people say that more than 50
mm,
people died. Many of these bodies went missing. Sorry, excuse me. So, uh, this Martyrs' Day is celebrated or observed every year in Kalimpong, and this was like a turning point in the movement itself. So, whenever people refer, they say Chiasi ko movement.
mm,
Chiasi means 86.
mm,
In Nepali, Chiasi means 86. So,
mm,
so this Chiasi ko movement, the symbolic date actually is the 27th of July. And this guy also goes and to that rally. I'll just read a small
mm,
portion to some of our listeners out here, and then
mm,
it says, that's page number 69, where I read, Kalimpong had become a ghost town overnight. Humanity died. Kalimpong died that day. I came home late at night. My clothes were drenched with bloodstains. Viridaju was waiting for me. The sight of blood made him nervous at first. He thought I was shot. Don't worry, I'm okay, I reassured him. I had been carrying people to the hospital. I am hungry. Could you fix me a plate? I climbed up the stairs, unbuttoning my shirt. Each step felt heavy. The load of human blood had drained me for the first time. I flung the shirt on the last step. Throw it, burn it down. Don't waste your time washing it, I said as I entered my room. I cleaned myself with cold water. My senses were numbed by the gory act. The cold water jolted me back. I quietly ate whatever was served, like a zombie. The chicken in the bowl did not excite me. I pushed it aside. Bidadaju watched in complete silence. A little later, I was snoring on the sofa. He then covered me with a blanket without disturbing me. At night, when I suddenly woke up, I saw him sleeping below the sofa. He did not want me to be alone, even for a second. So, in this, the protagonist actually was part of that
mm,
uh, rally and comes back home bloodstained because he had been carrying, people,
mm,
injured people uh, to the hospital, etc. And, where he says that, he did not know that what he was carrying, whether he was carrying an injured person or a dead person. So Kalimpong had never seen such, you know, outright dismissal of democratic, uh, you know, uh, you know,
mm,
demands. The
yeah,
people in a democracy, people have a right to demand. That doesn't mean that you resort to shooting. I mean, that is
mm,
what we all get back to every time when we discuss this Chasiko Andalan, and that is how this book has captured it. I think later on also in one of the speeches I have talked about it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, right. I think that was really interesting, like how you put that scene there, because like, I feel like it's one thing to put the rally scene there, but then the aftermath of it, I feel like speaks even more powerfully, as to what had he bring after that, the trauma, the memories and everything. Another thing that I think you have spoken about in your book was that it was not just the people in the rally, right? Like it was everyone, basically common people living through that time in general. Everyone was struggling, right? So during this part, what stayed with you the most? Because I'm looking at 81, page 81 right now, and I feel like I heard similar stories from my mom. So because my mom's also from Darjeeling and she was also part of the 86, 87 rally. She was quite young herself, and she used to tell me stories about then where they used to run away, and her father used to run away right after, they would hear like the police would coming. And I feel like that was exactly the scene that was set, like, they would run away to the tea gardens and stuff and hide. So I feel like, it was not just people who were actively protesting, but every person, especially men, at that time. So I feel like what was the thing that's like, when you were writing the scene or just researching in general, what stayed with you the most?
So, 86, I was very young.
Yeah.
I was in class 5 or 6.
Mm,
I don't remember. Yeah, must be 5, 6, 7.
mm,
Uh, and that's a time when we used to hear a lot of stories from people who'd come down from the hills,
mm,
especially to Siliguri. And we had this small house where a lot of people would come there just to wash their clothes,
yeah.
because going near the stream was also dangerous. You could just be
Mm,
shot. And and then my father was also, my father was actually a civil services officer, and he would come and tell us stories about this is what happened, and of course
mm,
not to me, but to my mother, and we would eavesdrop, and because discussing anything about Gorkhaland at home was a no-no because he belonged to that the government, the
yeah,
civil
part.
the civil administration. He was part of it, but
Mm,
he was not placed in Darjeeling. He was working somewhere else. I mean, but then he had friends who would still call him
mm,
up and tell him stories. I mean, stories in the
mm,
sense real happenings. So at night, what used to happen was if there was a combing operation that had to happen, suddenly the sirens would be on, the lights of that area would be cut off, and
mm,
this police and the CRPF would then move into the habitation.
mm,
And with the siren and the lights going off, people
mm,
just fled. I mean, they just
mm,
ran. And most of these police people, they were from the plains and they could not
mm,
run up the hill. So
yeah,
the best way to avoid them
mm,
is to run uphill into
yeah,
the forest, into the plantation areas, into the tea
mm,
gardens, where they would not be able to run so
yeah,
fast. And then only in the morning they used to come back. So I'll read that part, Magna, if you
yeah,
allow me, you
yeah,
know.
sure, sure.
And people also had this hilarious thing, that kept this whole hills alive was jokes in the hills.
Jokes,
Everything
yeah.
people took it lightly at the end of the day, and that's how it,
Mm,
people kept going.
mm,
Sirens also meant banquet for leeches, always waiting for a moment to stick to boots and clothes of the fleeing masses. They would climb up their clothes or even fall from trees. Once they had sucked enough blood, they would roll off the skin, totally inebriated. People joked about it and compared the police siren as a dinner alarm for the leeches. The jokes made this run for life a little easy. Yet, the scars left behind by these leeches would last more than a week till a new scar would take its place. They did not mind the scars. The bullets made deadlier scars, sometimes for a lifetime, that is, if you are lucky to survive them. They would run. They would return at the crack of dawn after everything subsided to burnt houses, broken furniture, scarred women. During one of those nights, I saw a girl sitting in front of her ransacked house, expressionless. Her father
mm,
sat beside her, trying to console her. It was
mm,
Pradhan sir and his daughter. I walked into this house with my team. A trail of blood led us to the bedroom. Three young schoolboys had been shot at point blank range. None of
Mm,
them even had an inkling of facial hair, just a thin line of adolescent hair as a first sign of mustache. I knew her brother who lay in a pool of blood. He was a good footballer, played sub-junior league matches, probably in class 8 when I had left Graham's homes 2 years back. They were preparing for their board exams when the black bandana-clad khaki team entered the house and shot them.
mm,
The girl was Kavita. She was studying in class 11 or 12 with them. Her father was a well-known musician. And then it goes on, and then goes on to say that how, these khaki men actually raped this little girl in front of the boys and the father. So these are real stories. It's not fictional.
mm,
It's just written in a fictional format. You get angry at times.
yeah,
That's the way of the world. Probably that's the way
mm,
people bring control of law and order in the
mm,
country. So who will tell the stories? And why should the
yeah,
stories die down? The stories have to be told, retold,
mm,
and brought in public platform.
mm,
Whether it happened 50 years back, whether it happened 20 years back, or whether it happened 500 years back. These are real stories which go missing in, say, academic papers or books which are, non-fictional books. It goes missing.
mm,
So this is the best way I felt that it could come in public light, and that's why the
mm.
stories were written.
Right, right. I definitely agree. I feel like looking into it in a more fictional way, we can see how each person's has their personal journey. And like what you've mentioned, the scenes that you have actually come up with, it's actually more real than what we have been looking at in fictional, in non-fictional books. I feel like a lot of non-fictional books is more objective, like this happened, that happened during that time. Whereas now we're
And
looking
non-fiction
into,
cannot
yeah.
give you emotions.
Right, right, exactly. And I feel like looking into these stories, I mean, obviously, like what I've said, like, my mom was also part of the movement there. And so I've heard few stories myself, how she told me she like one time, this is a little bit out of the topic, but one time when she was running away, like she literally carried my cousin's sister, like she tied her up and then she ran into the like tea estate because we live near the tea estate and we're actually very near Sikkim, near Jortang. So she literally ran like the whole night, and then they crossed the border to Sikkim. And like seeing this, obviously, my mom's from there, so she would tell me. But the other people, like what you have said, right? All these other people that deserves to also know about this, and not just like, hey, this is a new headline. This happened during that time. And I think that's really interesting. And I'm really like stoked to read the whole book because I've only read some part of it. I really want to read the whole book and it's really interesting how you put it. So one question that I do want to ask, is that what do you think that those kind of rally and all the things that happened in 2017 as well as 86, 87, how do you think these um, moments has shaped the region's politics today, or even just any consequences that has been brought by these movements and stuff?
Uh, as I mean, while writing Gorkhaland diaries,
Mm,
and when it got published, and people did ask me that, what do you achieve from it?
mm, yeah.
And uh, I said, like, I'm not telling the story of what the leaders did or
Mm,
how they shaped their own future.
mm,
They became leaders, they became chairmen, became adhyakshas, they became this, that, earned a lot of money. I don't know from where, but yeah. But one thing is there today, any leader in this area, if he or she speaks one word against Gorkhaland, that person is gone forever from politics. That is
mm,
for sure. So any leader who has to climb up the ladder will have to take up this issue because this whole issue of Gorkhaland has now become an aspirational issue. Aspirations, once you know someone puts an aspiration in one person, it goes through generations. So in my earlier generation, if I say that my father and all that, later on when he retired, he used to say that, yeah, I did support the movement. And that thing came back to me, and then yes, even I want a Gorkhaland.
Mm,
And this aspiration now goes to my son and daughter, or my children, they'll say that, oh, if you've not got in your time, we'll try to get it. It's an
mm,
aspirational thing that goes through generations. And once you have that aspiration, nothing can deter you from the core objective. Getting it, not getting it, well, that's a matter of public discourse, that's a matter of administrative decisions, that's a matter of the Indian Parliament providing, not providing. That's beyond the question. That's not even question. But this one issue has kept the people of the hills together, at least together. You know, uh, People do not, I mean, or reject. Uh,
mm,
Individual organizations. But if and even now we've been seeing a lot of posts have been coming out very recently, just about
mm,
2 weeks back. There was an interlocutor who has been appointed by the government of India, and right now he's in Darjeeling to come out with a political solution to this whole crisis. So even though there is no violence, etc., in this area, people are not coming out in rallies, but there is this undercurrent
mm,
that
mm,
everyone in this region wants it. So,
mm,
so that is the overall understanding even of the government of India, that
mm, yeah,
there are people who are not happy with the administrative setup that's there, and and the people of that region wants to take up the administrative control at their own level. So
mm,
that is the overall understanding, and that was the preliminary demand of all the leaders in the past or even in the present. So that is how I look at it. That's how it has
yeah,
shaped it. But other than that, yes, due to the 86, 87, 88 movement, a lot of people died, a lot of bright minds died, people were killed, many people lost their parents, their fathers, their brothers, sisters, who were very bright kids, and probably they would be one of the, they would be professors, or they would be in administrative as administrative officers, or a bank officer or a police officer. uh, we lost a whole generation because of that movement. And uh, we have to understand that the Nepali speaking population of that area uh, were almost 200 to 50 years behind the general population of Bengal or even of India. When we had babus and high-ranking officers in Bengal and in America, in Delhi, our guys were still carrying the bamboo baskets and plucking tea leaves. So
mm,
that was a generation, educated generation, which was coming up, and we lost a lot of them. A lot of them left the country and moved away, seeing that there was no future for this area. So yes, there was this movement of 86, 87, and 88 has taken our region intellectually behind.
mm,
Other than the economy, we have been taken intellectually behind, and we've lost a lot of good brains in that particular movement, uh, either directly or indirectly. So
yeah,
probably a child should, lost his father or mother or the breadwinner of the family, and that child just stopped going to school, or maybe he's just become a driver, or a you know or a chowkidar. So that's how it has changed. I wish, if those people, many of them who were alive, the breast brains, would have made something for themselves and the region if they were there, and if this movement had not scarred the entire society.
right, right. I definitely do agree. I feel like there is that positive things that also has changed within the politics nature, but then there's also those negative things that you have said that has impacted people. Right. So I guess talking about the more political scene, I feel like when we take a look at your second book, which is Sikkim from Autocracy to Half Democracy, I think one word that not only startles me, but everyone is, what do you mean by half democracy? And like, what does that mean, you know? Yeah, so could you just like elaborate a little bit for us?
Okay, so before I talk about half democracy, I'll just say a
Mhm.
few things about Sikkim. So it's
Yeah.
1975 is a time when Sikkim became part of India. The democratic movement,
Mm,
the second democratic movement, I should say, the first one is in 1947 when the masses wanted to join Sikkim. Fine, but 73 and 74 and 75 when the real turbulence happened, and 75, 16th of May, Sikkim became part of India. So that's one part of the story. Another part of story is uh, there's always a discussion that Sikkim was taken over or, grabbed by. There's a book called Smash and Grab where they said that how the Indian government played around and took the
mm,
country into its fold. So an independent country, Himalayan kingdom became a state of India.
mm,
And that is 50 years from, I mean, this year. So
mm,
2025 and 1975. But the most interesting part is, again, when you read books,
mm,
So if I look at books like Sunanda Datta Roy's Smash and Grab, if I look at a book by Andrew Duff, The Himalayan Recam, or if I look at, and both these books come from a view from the palace, that the
mm,
king trying to say that, oh, my kingdom is gone, or the
mm,
royalty saying that somehow, India took it over. And then we have uh, Dawn of Democracy by GBS Sidhu, who says that, oh no, the raw, the it's the CIA of India or FBI or whatever you call it, the research and analysis wing of India. They plotted and took over India. And then you have, whereas GBS Sidhu was placed in Sikkim in 1973. And then we have Malloy Krishnadhar, who's an IB agent, Open Secrets. He's written a book where he says, no, IB played a big role in taking over Sikkim. And then we have Preet Mohan Singh Malik, who writes about the geopolitical importance of Sikkim and why it became a part of India, etc.
mm,
Uh, so everybody, and this, and Sunanda Dattara and Andrew Duff were both journalists. They were not
mm,
historians. And uh, and then we have Jigme Kazi, a local writer, very good person. He has written about, again, the same thing about the view from the palace or how India took over the kingdom.
yeah.
But in all this, what I found missing was, so what were those 30, 40,000? And 30, 40,000 is about 15% of the population of Sikkim that time.
Mm,
What were they doing in the streets of Gangtok? Who they had out the whole palace. They were, on the streets rallying. What were they doing
yeah.
when they asked for democracy? So this was my biggest question. And then I was not, I did not get any answers from any of the books.
Mm,
But incidentally, at that time, there was this man, um, who again, I have written in the blurb itself,
mm,
behind the book, is Narbadur Khatiwara is a much misunderstood man who stood with Kazi Lendub Dorji. So Narbadur Khatiwara was the youth leader at that time, and he was
mm,
also the adopted son of the first chief minister who was leading the movement. So Narbadur Khatiwara is a Nepali Brahmin, and then we have Kazi Lendup Darji, who was a lepcha, who was the main opposition leader and leading the democratic forces to bring democracy into Sikkim. So and this person lives near my house. It was very difficult to get an interview with him, but uh, during the COVID time, we used to keep meeting and all that. And that is the time when his son came up to me one day, who's a colonel in the Indian Army, and he said that, why don't you write our story, his story? I said, okay, that's what I was looking for. And is there any evidence? So he said that, oh, he's got lots of diaries, books, chits,
mm,
papers, letters in his,
yeah.
and he's a lawyer. This old man is now a lawyer. I said, can I get access to all that?
Mm,
And he said, yes. And that is how the whole idea of writing Sikkim from autocracy to
mm,
half democracy came about. So now I come to the
yeah.
second part of your question, where even in this book, there's a chapter called What is Sikkim's Half Democracy?
Yeah.
And uh, in India, there is a system whereby the number of seats in the Indian Parliament or in
Mm,
the state assemblies are divided as per the number of or different types of people. Like, for example, in India, we have the general caste, the scheduled tribe, and the scheduled caste. That is how the seats are divided.
yeah.
But for Sikkim, out of the 32 assembly seats, almost 40% of a seat is reserved for a particular, the Bhutias and the Lepchas. It's called the BL community. And there is also a monastic seat. That means there is a seat in the assembly where only monks can stand for elections. And that also they stand from different parties, which is very unconstitutional as per the Indian constitution. So these were the questions that he wanted to put up, and he has done it rightly because he's given me
Mm.
enough documents. And when Sikkim was being merged with India, there were these assembly debates that had happened in the assembly, Sikkim assembly. There were in the Indian Parliament, there were parliamentary debates. So all that brought together, and it still continues even till today. So that is the half democracy which people have been saying, because in the pre-merger time there were seats that were equally divided and reserved
Mm.
for the Nepali speaking population and for the Bhutias and Lepchas. But after democracy, that means after Sikkim became part of India, those seats, the Nepali seats, got went missing and was converted into general seat. That means anyone and everyone can stand from these seats. But the BL seat, which was 15, was reduced to 12, but it was kept intact. So this is the half democracy which the Nepali speaking
Mm.
population of Sikkim, who's the majority, almost 75% of Sikkim are the Nepali speaking population, uh,
Mhm.
is what they call it half democracy, because it was, they say that it's unjust. I
Yeah.
wrote this book as just as a neutral observer.
Mhm.
I have not put in my views in this. It was a neutral observer. So
Mhm.
now we have one book which has come out from the masses. Uh, in the blurb, it has it is written that
Mhm.
this book recreates those times and unravels many of the unknown facts from the annals of history. And also, uh, this is the first book that is written from uh, people's perspective, the perspective of the masses, unlike what Raw said or what the Foreign Affairs Secretary Preet Mohan Singh Malik said, or what Sunanda Datta Roy or Andrew Duff or the likes of them have written from the view from the palace. So this is the first book from the masses, or rather, let's say, a subaltern approach to looking at Sikkim's merger with India.
Yeah, yeah, that sounds really interesting, right? Like I feel like the way that you have just created a picture, it makes it a lot more sense as to the word itself, have democracy. So, right, I want to ask more questions, but we really have a few more minutes left. So, I feel that I should give it to the audience instead to throw us some questions. And yeah, so I guess we can open the floor to the audience. So, if you guys have any questions, whether it's for Gorkhaland Diaries or Sikkim, the nonfiction book, so yeah, please throw us some questions for yeah, you guys can either raise your hand or type the question out. Any of them is fine.
Yeah, till then, as they come up with their questions, I would also
Mm.
like to put up to this audience, and that how do we look
Mm.
into the overall relationship that and put in a new thought, in the
Yeah.
minds of the people, and that is, you know, uh, there is always this discourse of who a Gorkha is, you know
Yes, yes.
or who, and people always associate that, oh, there's a district of Gorkha in the
Mm.
western part
Yes.
of Kathmandu, there's a district of Gorkha, and then you have the Karnali River, and that's where Prithvi Narayan Shah came from and established the Gorkha kingdom, etc. So how are you associating with the Gorkhaland movement?
Mm.
Let me make it very clear that the whole Andolan, or this movement of Gorkhaland movement, the word Gorkha is a political term, is a political term. That is, at that time, there were many questions that were being raised. Yeah, Yoshe is there. Yoshe, just let me finish this. So there were many questions that was raised, and that is, how do we use a separate word? Like in Bhutan, the Nepali speaking people are called Lotsampas,
Mm.
And in India, they was trying to say that, oh, let's coin a new word like Bharpali, Bharatiya Nepali types,
Yeah.
because there's already a word. As I said before, a Nepali, a language, a
Yeah.
citizen of a country, or what? So these are basic questions, and that is the time when, and the leader, Mr. Subhash Khishing, who came up with this idea of saying, let's call ourselves Gorkhas, because that now separates from what people from Nepal will call themselves Nepalis. We call ourselves Gorkhas.
Gorkha.
That is how the term was called. But beyond the term, I think it's a
Mm.
very simple way of understanding that it's just a political term coined in that time to identify the Indian Nepalis from the Nepal Nepalis. That's all. I mean,
Yeah.
there's no debate about it. It's not about race or tribe or whatever. And
Mm-mm.
and the Gorkhas were everyone, the Bhutias, the Lepchas, they used to call themselves Nebula. The Nepali Bhutias and Lepchas were called Nebula. What a beautiful word. You
Mm.
know, those who are being questioned. Yes, Yoshe, can I have
Okay.
a question,
Okay.
please? Yosh is raising his hand. Her hand, yeah.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes,
yes.
yes.
Yeah, great. It's so wonderful to see you, Dr. Satyadeep. Lovely talk. Really enjoyed it. I'm afraid this is going to take a little bit time because I would like to share the quote from Gorkhaland Diaries. And the reason why I'm sharing this is because I related it with it so well, and also it resonates so well with the collective sentiment. So here it is. Darjeeling and Kalimpong Hills. It's from, by the way, it's from page 114. So here goes uh, the quote. Darjeeling and Kalimpong Hills have always faced the brunt of being a political orphan. We have been tossed between kings of Sikkim, Nepal, Bhutan, and erstwhile British Kingdom. I feel that even the British did not know what to do with the gold mine that they had created for itself when they left. The gold mine, the tea industry, has been milked so much by the white and brown sahibs that there is nothing left for our own people. I feel that we are homeless in our own home. We still do not have access to our land where we have been living for generations and have been termed as foreigners and immigrants in our own country. This is wrong. This is what we have to live with and maybe eventually die with. So this passage was so incisive and it hit me to the core, and it reflects the collective sentiments that we all have, but not many of us can express this in a way, in so many ways, we cannot express it. We talk about it among our friends, but not on a larger scale. So this was a really, really good passage that came across in the book, and that it really, really resonated with me. And I also would like to stress that how important this book is for everybody, and that everybody should read it entirely and resonate with it, and it's very, very inspiring as well. And at the end of it, I have a I have a question of a rather political nature. Do you know how these talks are floating about on the internet and sometimes on the news as well, about the Darjeeling Sikkim merger? What is your take on that?
That's a loaded question, Yoshi. Uh, Thank you very much for reading that passage out so beautifully. I mean, you've got a lovely voice. Uh, these are, what was the song? We are prisoners of our own device.
Hmm.
Remember that song,
Yes.
Eagles, Hotel
Yeah.
California, where they
Hotel
say we are,
California.
yeah, we are prisoners of our own device. Uh, I remember, I mean, I've met a lot of people in this last 1.5 years, marriages and funerals. That's where I get the stories from. And I don't know now, people come and tell me stories actually, They come
Mhm.
and tell me, "Leख्नुहोस् न तपाईँले." I mean, please write it. And I said, no, no, please tell me. And they don't know that my hard disk keeps recording them. And when I get back home, I write a few points just to keep it that someday I will write something about it when all the perspectives come together.
mm,
Yes, there are people in the Darjeeling Hills who want the merger, and yes, there are people in Sikkim who do not want the merger. And it works both ways, vice versa. Like they don't want, they want. Some of them in Sikkim also wants. In Darjeeling, they don't want. So the basic question is there are people on both sides of the table.
mm,
The question is, what are we looking at?
mm,
Is it a question of identity? If it's a question of identity, then I have serious doubts because as soon as you merge with Sikkim, you become a Sikkimese, which you were not all through your life.
mm,
It means your Gorkha identity goes missing. Because I remember the previous chief minister, Mr. Pawan Chamling, had clearly said, and it's placed in the documents of Sikkim that there is no Gorkha word in any of the Sikkimese files. Even I have come across, there's only one mention of it, and that was a paper in 1923. I have got that paper where the word Gorkha has been mentioned. And in 1925, the Gorkha has been changed to Sikkimese Nepali. So what do you want? And in the other end, is it not for because Sikkim has a budget of 15,000 crores, whereas Darjeeling might be having a budget of around 2,000 crores and say 3,000 or 4,000 rupees of revenue, which does not stay with the Darjeeling people, but flows down to Calcutta.
right.
Is it not for the money? So if it is for the money, then why clamor about Gorkhaland? Just go to parliament and say that, or the prime minister, go ahead and say, sir, please give us this money. We'll be happy with whatever we want.
Mm,
Let the identity part go into the dustbin. So these are my questions to some of the leaders whom I have met, and actually even they didn't have answers when I questioned them back. So as I said, it's a very loaded question. We don't know which way we will go, but end of the day, we do not want to be or become like the state of Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh in the future. We don't want to become like that. So even whether the merger happens, whether the merger does not happen, whether people like it, whether people does not do not like it, it's all up to the Indian government because that is where the balls roll, and that is where
right.
decisions are taken. Which is a small minuscule of the 140 crore population that we are. We're just about 50
Mm,
lakhs or 60 lakhs. People do say that we are 1.5 crores, I doubt. But then, yes, even if we stretch it to about 65, 70, 80 crores for 80 lakhs, fine. That's just a minuscule of what we are. The decisions are being taken in Delhi, and probably we have no control over it. And we have to
mm,
stay as citizens of India and accept what the government of India gives us. So the
mm,
best way is to take every and tomorrow if this merger happens and there is dissatisfaction among people, we will lose our own brothers and sisters in Sikkim, or Sikkimis will lose their own brothers and sisters in in the Darjeeling Hills. So Nongra Masuko, this Sambandha should be stayed as Nongra Masuko Sambandha. Let's hope.
mm.
That's my answer. I've kept it as simple as possible.
Truly wonderful. Really good answer. And I entirely agree with you because from the start, the fight was for identity and for Mato and all that. So yes, I really, really agree with you as far as the merger is concerned. But I just keep seeing that once in a while. It pops up here and there, and then there are parties. And so, yeah, so I just wanted to know your take on it. Thank
And Yoshi,
you.
I just want to add over here, if
Mhm.
there are people from Nepal in this room, or probably I think the Nepali narrative will also beam it in their YouTube channel, is a message to our people in Nepal and Bhutan, is that all of us are actually one. Let us accept it. Let us accept it that people from this entire Indian subcontinent, let's not take each other as enemies or we are against each other. No, no one is against each other. And every time this debate comes up, we have people from Nepal telling us, "Oh, tapai haruले त देश छोडेर जानु भएको." And then we come to India, and then there are people from India who says, "Oh, you all are from Nepal." So this question of identity again comes down to that very place where we started this discussion right at the beginning of the program. And
Yeah.
one more thing that I would like to add to this enlightened audience is that, the religion that binds from Afghanistan to Burma or even further down to Myanmar, to Thailand and to Vietnam, is the religion of Buddhism. Let's accept it.
Mm.
And the language that binds, though it people say it's predatory, but the language that binds 11 mountain states and 4 countries, that is Nepal, India, Bhutan, and Burma, is the Nepali language. Though it's predatory, I'm saying it's predatory.
Mm.
But I think people in Jammu and Kashmir do understand a little bit of Nepali. People in Mizoram will understand, but Burma people understand, Bhutan people understand. But a person from Mizoram, a person who speaks Mizo, will not be understood in Jammu and Kashmir. Or a
Mm.
person, if a person speaks, say, Kashmiri in Arunachal, he will not be understood, or even in Burma. But if you
Yeah,
speak Nepali, little, even if it is 20%, people will understand what you're trying to say. So let us
right.
take these two portions, like the entire Himalayan region. We have a religion like Buddhism, which binds right from Afghanistan, from the Bamiyan Buddhas, right up to
Yeah,
Vietnam, to the Angkor Wat. So let us take this perspective, and if some research can be done in this area, I would be happy to read all those research that comes out, people's perspective.
yeah. So true. Wonderfully spoken, Dr. Satyadeep. Thank you so much for your answer and lovely to see you.
I think we have one more question by Ranu Sherpa. Yeah.
Was that?
She asks us about your fiction book, Gorkhaland Diaries. Yeah, it's in the chat box.
We have a question. Thank you for engaging, Tor. How far am I right to argue that fiction writing can be considered as an alternate history? Where does the line blur? Uh, not all fiction, uh, not all fiction is history, yes, because I read a lot of stories where there is no history, anything in that fiction. But then, yes, when you want to attach, as I said, your emotions or your stories which are not represented or misrepresented either by the press or by non-academic writers, academic writers, then I think fiction is the best way forward to take your stories ahead. And the best part about fiction is, at the end of the day, you can just say it's a story. If you come to receiving, because the world has become very, uh, I mean, they're not ready to accept, your version. So, academic or non-fiction books will be questioned. They will ask for references, this, that, so on and so forth. But yes, with fiction, you can write a lot of your oral histories, your folklores, bring it together, merge it with the present conditions, with the present political scenario or the social scenario, both, and put forward as a beautiful book. Recently, I was reading a book by this person, a Malayali person by the name of T.D. Ramakrishnan, and the book is Francis Itikora. It's translated book from Malayali to English. There's a little bit of eroticism, there's a little bit of history, there's a little bit of taking you all over the world. But I found this book very engaging, in the way the author has written and brought all the facts together. Probably we could, think in those lines, Uh, and together with that, I would also like to add a few more things, and that is, Gorkhaland Diaries is not the be all and end all of all the books. There are beautiful other books, There's a book by the name of Fatsung, which has been written and translated into English, Song of the Soil. Then there is another book, the tree, Leknath Chetri's book, Fulange, has been translated to English. Uh, so authors are writing about this. Prerna's book, which has a little bit of Gorkhaland in it. So there will be different stories. Fruits of the Barren Tree. Thank you, Ranu. Fruits of the Barren Tree. Fulange has been trans. And then there's a new book which is coming out, which is I'm very excited to read that book because I've been hearing about this book for a pretty long time. Sharda Chetri's book, which again, it is a 86, 87, 88 Andolan, but the main protagonist in the book are all ladies, you know. So how did the women folk feel like? So there's another fiction coming out early, either I think by March next year. So these are books I think we should be reading to know our own history, uh, good, bad, and ugly. But that is part of our history, so we can't deny those. But yet the local voices are coming out. And once upon a time, when people said that uh, the Gorkhaland movement was anti-national, I think with these books, we are now placing our facts that it was never an anti-national movement. It was never a secessionist movement. It was a movement just to uh, put our identity, a stamp of our identity, a small section of people putting their identity on the map of India, you know. And with the Gorkhaland movement, one good thing also has happened, and that is the Nepali language. Out of 600 languages in India, the Nepali language has been taken or has been put in the list of 22 languages. There are only 22 languages which are which is recognized by the government of India. You can find ek rupiah written even in your and the currency notes in India. So the Nepali language has been incorporated, and this is all because of the Gorkhaland Andolan, 86. So that was one achievement, I should say, that out of the 600 languages, 22 languages have been endorsed by the government of India, and one of the languages, the Nepali language.
Yes, thank you so much. Right. Right. So before we end this session, one thing that I do want to ask before we wrap up this is, what is your research taking you to your upcoming projects? Like, what is next for you? So I guess, yeah, we just want to know a little bit about that.
Yeah, so first of all, there's a good news for all of you. A new
Mm,
book will be released very soon. We just finished with uh,
mm,
the cover of the book yesterday, and this is a translation of Hindi book which got the Kalinga Award in 2025, written by a very good friend of mine who's a professor in Hindi in Delhi. The name of the book is Kissagram and Other Stories. So there's a novella, and there are seven more stories. So it's a the novella, actually the Kissagram won the award, and this book works in different layers. It is
mm,
almost like Asterix. A class nine, a child in 9 or 10 years of old child can enjoy reading Kissagram as a nice story. But
mm,
then, as you grow up and as you understand what India is right now, where the common people live within or among narratives of, whenever you see a stone, you create it into a god. So this is all about that. So that's coming out. I should say end of November, early November, not early November, say after. I think the bookings of the book, etc., will start very soon. So it should be out by end of November. Then there's another book chapter that will come out, and I would like everyone to read it. It is Rebuilding India-Nepal Relationship, which is being published by Simon and Schuster, which is coming out somewhere in December, mid-December. It's coming out, and next year, yes, there is. Someday we can speak about it, and that is
mm,
there's a black history of Sikkim called Kalobhari, where
mm,
there was forced labor, where the common masses had to carry, anything from salt to sugar to even a car,
mm,
Austin Ford car. They had to carry it on their backs right from a place near Tista called Gelkola up to Yatung in Tibet. That's between 1920 and 1940. So there's a fiction
mm,
which has been written. I'm reworking on that. It's called Kalabari, but then the translation will be different. Had come out with that, but I was not happy with the translation. So we are redoing that translation, and I'm re-editing the book. Should be out early next February, by February. Yeah, so these are
mm,
three in the pipeline that you will, I mean,
right,
December would be a
right.
big month for me because two books coming out back to back.
Right, right. There's just so many of them, like definitely. So I guess this is also a heads up for everyone out there today, right? Like,
Just to add one more
yeah.
thing, just to add one more thing. And why Kisagram, why I was interested to translate Kisagram also was there is a fictional town of Sitapuri which is created in this book.
Mm,
And just like R.K. Narayan did with Malgudi. So Malgudi Day is very famous. So there's a fictional town of Sitapuri, which is located at the Indo-Nepal border. So you will
mm,
have a lot of Chetri and Thapa and all that surnames also in the book. So
yeah.
that is what excited me about the book.
Right.
On the Indo-Nepal. It's a fictional book. Yeah, sorry, Magna.
No, no, no. Yes, do take your time. Yeah, it sounds really interesting. Definitely would look upon it. And yeah, I guess that wraps up our session. But before we leave, I would highly recommend you guys, if you're interested in what Dr. Chetri had to talk about today, definitely get his book. So I have put up both for local purchases and international. The QR codes are up there. Feel free to purchase the books, and yeah, and these books will
And we also
also.
have Rachna books actually part of this discussion, if you can see.
Oh, yes, yes, yes,
Yes,
I
so
did
Rachna
see
Books is
it.
also there. We've put up the QR code. And if you're listening, Raman, this QR code directly takes it to your store.
Yeah. So, right. And then if you guys are interested reading along together and discussing about it, we will be reading Gorkhaland Diaries together in our book club as well. So, right, check that out as well. Yeah,
Thank
so
you.
I guess that's all we have for today, and thank you so much. See you guys all tomorrow if you're still interested. Tomorrow we have another panel discussion with Yoshe Lama and Ranu Sherpa, who was also here today. So, right, I'm very excited for tomorrow as well. Tomorrow we'll be looking into translation and translated fiction. So, yes, right. So, see you
So thank
guys
you very
all.
much. Good
Yes,
night and good night and good morning. I think Yoshe is in Norway.
yeah.
So have a great day and have a great evening. All of you all enjoy. Have fun. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Oh,
Right.
that's good afternoon. Okay, okay, good